The Deadzone Containment Protocols from Mantic Games.
The Salvation of Rage by Mark Gottlieb. The day before I left home to join the military, and then later, core security training program, my mother gave me a pair of gray Malkins, the most beautiful and expensive boots I would ever own. Durasteel at the toes with reinforced sole. They probably cost every last credit she had, but she wanted to send me off wearing the kind of shoes a man could be proud of. My father gave me a black eye. Lying here, not really sure of what happened, I find myself thinking of those shoes. I wander through the haze, where the left one went. Hell, I can't even feel my left foot now. That's probably a good thing, though. As it comes in and out of focus, I have the presence of mind to realize that it looks like a mess, and hardly like a foot at all, but at least I have a good fortune of not being able to feel much of anything. A drum beat plays out in my head, too irregular to be music. I really hope that it isn't my heartbeat. As consciousness starts to fade away slowly from me, I do a whole lot of wishing. I wish I didn't know what had hit me, and exactly how bad the fact is. I wish I had never set foot on Nexus Psi in the first place. At the top of the list is I really wish something was checking hurt, because a foot that looks that bad and doesn't hurt is a really bad sign. I may be thinking about my boots as consciousness slips away. Sure, but I never did forget that black eye. I never forgot how easily a gesture of love gave way to the more stark memory that comes from the act so filled with hate. My father's name was Martin Ibn al-Revin. He gave me that too, and like his parting shot, I could have happily lived without it. He raised us on Corporation Central, my brother Pharaoh and me. One of my first memories is of my mother crying when he told her that we were leaving the migrant fleet, leaving our traditions, and moving planetside because he had found a job. The migrant life was one of poverty. The fleet scraping by as tinkers, laborers, whatever they could do to make enough credits to get to the next system. Always moving, always searching for the next payday to keep us clothed and fed. We were a different kind of poor on Corporation Central though. On Central, you were the empty kind of poor. In the fleet, everyone would share. People had nothing, but everyone had the same nothing. We laughed off conventional schooling, picking up the trades that could easily keep us going. We had big extended families and didn't eat enough, but nobody ever went truly without. Growing up in it, I had taken it all for granted. With hindsight, it was pretty wonderful. On Central, though, we had less than nothing, and had the fact rubbed in our faces every day. The workers, the people who kept the planet running, lived like animals, scrabbling over each other for every scrap left them by those in power. As a former migrant fleet folk, Fleetfoot they would call us, because we walked so damn funny under proper gravity. We were a step lower still. Dad's big opportunity was cleaning out reactor cores as they cycled them in and out of use. Dangerous, back-breaking work that paid almost nothing. Fitting work for a Fleetfoot. None of us was surprised when he quit, saying he would find another way to get us by. He always quit. It was the one thing we could always count on. There's a reason they call it Corruption Central, when no one from the GCPS authority is listening. It took less than a week for my father to find shadier work. He didn't have much in the way of morals, and there was always someone with too much money who was too set on hurting someone or having something that they weren't entitled to. If someone got caught, oh well, he was just another Fleetfoot, acting the way the vid news would have you believe that we all act, right? Thieves and grifters. I know for a fact, fine folks still scare their kids with bedtime stories that say we take them in the night if they behave badly. I hate to disappoint, but that one is utter slaz too. Anyway, Dad did just enough work to get us fed and get himself wasted. He was quick to pick up all kinds of habits actually. Drinking, Shiva Stim, all stuff they'd never had access to in the fleet. But boy did he take to it. Took to gambling too. Anytime he scored a little extra, and we might have had a chance to get ahead. Yeah, that ended up in a warehouse somewhere betting on underground dreadball. Not the kind of dreadball people watch with its 100 million credit paydays for players, and its nicely packaged production. This was the dirty game. The poor kids could actually aspire to play one day. Played away from the eyes of civilized folk. In the dark between the desperate and the homicidal. I don't even remember how long it was before he started hitting us. Time passes funny when you're a kid, especially when you're passing in and out of consciousness a lot. My father was a monster. I should have stopped him. It was a monster. I should have stopped it. I was there to stop it. As I come to, all I can think about is the terrible luck I've always had. First day on the actual job, for all my training, this check goes down on my first day. Just this morning, at least I think it was this morning, Cruz, our crew boss, told us we'd be running security for a group of scientists. 6 Alpha something. I thought it would be a way to ease me into things, since I would still get my legs under me. My body was long and lean, thanks to being born into fleet life, but the years on Central, with its slightly heavier gravity, made me hard and strong. Problem was, hitting next to Si, I was right back to walking funny, stumbling around like a teen on his first bender. Overdeveloped muscles, more than up to the task of moving me, added to the slightly weaker gravity around here, gave a whole new meaning to Orientation Day. Cruz was, a well-meaning guy, liked by all of us. Former military, I heard, which explained his buzz cut, drill sergeant-like demeanor, and efficient manner. We all knew he had Reb leanings, of course. Rumor was he could get all kinds of fun contraband into barracks. So he had us up bright and early, and made sure himself, Deadzone, and the rest of the guys all had a portion and a half of our morning protein slurry.
Don't get too excited,
Says Deadzone.
Extra food just means we'll be hauling gear more than we'll be doing actual security.
She was right. An hour later, we were standing outside, equipment checked and rechecked, looking professional in our uniforms and rifles slung across our backs. But we most certainly weren't expected to do much except for toting gear. My attention was split between Cruz and the piles of heavy, expensive-looking containers as he began to speak.
So the bad news is that the fine folks of 6 Alpha, whom you will be escorting today, require their full complement of gear to work, and the mineshaft you'll be taking them into won't accommodate the light walkers.
Groans went up all around me.
That's right, you've all won the opportunity to be slave labor. Bet you're wishing you stayed in officers training, huh, boys and girls? If you have any complaints, file them with your waitress.
I was too distracted to complain. My mind was still working over the idea that we would be going into a mine with scientists and millions of credits worth of their fanciest stuff. I couldn't help but wonder, what do a bunch of miners dig up that gets a greedy as hell operation to grind to a halt, pull out their workers, and send in security detail and science team? In retrospect, lying here nearly unable to move, I wish I hadn't found out, but I did. I hope someone gets a signal off, and that we aren't too far down to get help. I'm hurt. I'm upset at myself for getting hurt, too. That pointless, senseless frustration, born out of sheer helplessness. I can't get up, can barely see, and top of that, my ears are ringing and it feels like my brain is tingling. Maybe if I just close my eyes for a second.
Do ye remember what I tell ye about the ants?
My mom said in her distinctive satin voice.
Our ancestors, they see the ants and they see how they survive. Always survive together. Make paths and carry on. Always together.
This was how my mother would always choose to educate me, not through fables or cloying children's tales, but through knowledge. Today's lesson had started with history, though, and as such it was no surprise that she brought up the ants. It was a favorite story of hers. She told me once that it helped her to know that she was part of something bigger, and to understand that teamwork, focus, and determination were the things that helped our people carve a path to the stars, even if we're only eking out a meager living by more civilized standards. Still, while always telling me to honor who I was, my mom wanted me to have more, which is why she pushed lesson after lesson on me. She had no other choice, really. In theory, education was free to every citizen of Central, regardless of their station, background, and so forth. The problem was, in practice, there were so many little ways to fall between the cracks. Shuttles don't come to your neighborhood during a security state G, an emergency lockdown, in which all normal civil support services are suspended or severely restricted, for instance. And my neighborhood happened to have been in a security G state for what was then going on 7 years. That wasn't going to stop her, though. She was too good and cared too much to keep me from having a fighting chance. By the time I was 10, she had made me a voracious reader. I had the best vocabulary of anyone I knew, which was a point of personal pride, even while I endured beatings for it from the other kids. I feel like she worked twice as hard as my teacher. Because Pharaoh had rejected her offer to do the same for him, he had an easier time falling in line with what my father was into. And though they hated each other, both seemed to be fueled by the antagonism between them. 5 years my elder, and heavily muscled with olive skin, Pharaoh looked older still. I didn't see him often by then, and spent less time with him than I should have. I didn't learn to appreciate him until after he died. While alive, I never realized he'd tasked himself, sacrificed himself, to keep my father's gaze away from my mother and I. Thanks to him, I was able to be a good little aunt. I was sure I would work hard and follow the path my mom had laid out for me with education, even if it had to be one of her own devising. I hated that I really never thanked either Pharaoh or my mother for what they had tried to do, though. I come to sweating and not entirely confident that I'm really awake. I feel like I'm thinking through a thick fog. Taking stock of my surroundings doesn't improve anything. A few tiny lights flicker, 1 or 2, including the one pinned to my shoulder, blink orange. A few others are solid red. I don't know if the colored lights make me feel less alone, or a cold comfort. Orange making life taps mean critical injury, while red means death is imminent. There should be dozens more lights. Black life tap means death, of course. Too many are black. It's hard to tell, but the nearest orange light, I think it might be Cruz. That's good. If anyone was going to survive this mess, he's one of the handful who deserved to. He was so positive on the way up. I remember being in the APC. I mean, we called it that, half-jokingly. But as Cruz would remind us in that laconic way of his, it was rather light on the A, it really being just a shuttle bus. A couple of the guys had just stirred up the rest with their ghost stories. Wish I'd paid more attention. There was a dirty, dirty little secret of corporation life. The stories which never make the nightly vid news. The stories that make the bar rounds, yet still told in hushed whispers in bars and clubs. Planets, whole shecking planets just go poof sometimes. Makes for a good way to scare rookies off, and provide a few laughs for the old security types who have little in the way of fun in these backworlds. There are all kinds of theories too. Every miner, merc, or trader has their own. One guy'll tell you it's propaganda, made up by the corps, to keep smuggling away from the really choice worlds. Someone else will have crazy ideas about interplanetary war between alien races, that the corps are trying to keep quiet. Me? I was always confident that at least the military knew exactly what was happening. The military guys on leaves, maybe rolling into some dive, slumming in the bad parts of town for a little narco adventure. They didn't have theories. They didn't talk. Everyone had a theory but them. That told me they didn't need ideas, because they knew. The word Deadzone gets thrown around, equal parts boogeyman and deterrent, a word that was whispered even more quietly and never in open space. A story that said corporations had their own reason to disappear those planets. All I know is, I'm here, at the sharp and violent end of what I'm sure a Deadzone is all about. The weird part is, I still can't really remember what happened, and the harder I work to dig up that particular memory, the further away it seems to be from my grasp. Sheck. This really is how my miserable life ends. In a hole in the ground, in the dark. A little voice whispers in my ear though. No, not my ear. It feels like a hot wind, but it starts inside me, like a lover tracing lines of my body with a feather touch, but without the affection. It walks up my spine, and into the back of my head. I can't make out what it's saying, but it sounds like,
"That must make you so mad."
The words stop, but the feeling doesn't. Up my spine, into my head, up my spine, into my head. Soon it throbs with a distinctive pulse, speeding up and blurring together into a staccato rhythm a million times too fast. It feels like ants, walking their path through me. Mom, it feels like ants. I'm scared and angry, and I'm glad, all at once, as I pass out. The Drexa deities. That was my way out. 13 standard years old, and I already knew I needed a way out. The deities, or teams like them, could be found in any number of pore areas throughout the hundreds of worlds in the galactic co-prosperity sphere. Various patrons would look to boost their standing in public eye by sponsoring some youth dreadball team, or the like. It wasn't really so surprising. Compared to poverty, in all the daily battles, big and small, that came with life on Central, dreadball was a cakewalk. Every so often some kid would get noticed, and down the road, land a contract, and fill the heads of every slum kid with generations worth of hopes and dreams. It took me years to work up the courage to even sign up. My mother quietly encouraged me to do it, after I had whispered the details into her ear.
We won't have to tell your father, child. Go and try your very best for your mother.
That was all approval I needed, and emboldened, I made my way to the rundown gymnasium, which served as a base of operations for our district. It was ramshackle and rusted, yet twice as well maintained as every other building around it. As I stood there gawking up at the weathered logo, lashed by acid rain around these parts which served to give even the newest sign a nice patina within weeks, I was captivated. The silhouettes of 3 ethereal women, ghostly blue, lifting the body of a fallen man. Even at that age, I could appreciate the meaning, the symbol of opportunity, of rescue. A hand clasped down hard on my shoulder, startling me from my stupor. I wheeled around, tensed, expecting a sucker punch, something you've trained for when fighting is the only pastime kids can afford in your neighborhood. And when that same poverty trains a whole community to be angry, and it takes it out on one another. Luckily, at that age, I was still thinking first and raising my hand second. Not because it kept me from striking an innocent, but because the Forge Father with his hand on me would have killed me as easily as he greeted me. Despite just starting to really grow, I was already tall enough to look the bearded man in the eye. A Forge Father was a reasonably rare sight on this world, other than on a broadcast vid, as the non-human races tended to be given roughly the same treatment as fleet feet, the working poor, and the sewage running through our overfilled drains after a heavy downpour. Still, with another glance, I recognized the man. His full name was Thurgan Olafsson, though around here, he was just Wilco. Wilco, like a lot of youth treadball coaches, was a washed-up or washed-out player himself, who was happy to take the pittance salary the job offered, as it beat the hell out of a convenient accident in one last game, coupled with a mandatory parts recycling.
Good reaction time, kiddo. We'll make a striker out of ye, provided you're as smart as ye be quick.
I smiled at him, at his kindness, something I had heard shocking little of from anyone but my mother, and said little as he led me inside and helped me through some forms.
So ye know, before ye get your chance to train, ye have to make all the requirements. It's a policy thing from up high.
He explained, more candidly than any kid could expect from most adults, that I had to meet certain criteria to be part of the program.
They can't get good press if the kids involved are a bunch of hooligans, yeah? You've got to keep your nose clean and keep your grades up.
Right then, I wished he had hit me, or killed me after all. How could I explain that the only education I had was from my mother, and from the streets? It wouldn't matter to some bureaucrat that I was smart, that I knew more than most of the kids who did have the luxury of going to school. I wouldn't be able to send over digital transcripts. Wilco promised he would try to get something worked out, as he saw the tears welling up. I never knew if he actually followed through on that promise or not. All I knew was, with that simple admission, another dream was deferred. I walked home sullen. My father was there, home early himself, and already half gone. He saw the tears in my eyes, and rather than ask what was wrong, like a concerned parent I sometimes daydreamed he might one day be, he beat me, badly. I balled up my fists and fought back, of course. I hit and hit, until he was the one laying there, bleeding. I did what I had to, except I didn't. I don't know why I remember it that way. The reality of it was I just took it. My mother gave me the gift of being profoundly self-educated. My father, besides giving me his name, gave me his gift of self-loathing. I was a great victim, maybe the best. I really should have killed him. It doesn't feel like waking up anymore. Slipping from memory and waking to this blackness is more like changing scenes in a dream. Here, there, the distinction hardly matters anymore. I'm angry at everything, myself, my circumstances, my life, and the way I'm apparently going to die in this place. The events of the last 24 standard hours are hazy, and the older memories come to my waking mind more and more readily. Maybe this is the universe being kind. Maybe I'm about to die, and this is just the whole flashes before your eyes thing. But now, this story has a narrator. The ants crawl through my consciousness. I don't feel alone anymore, but I have a feeling that if I could somehow think about why that is, I would start screaming and maybe never stop. They keep pathfinding their way across the landscape of my body, and feel like I'm watching it happen from afar. It takes every bit of strength I have to lift my own hand in front of my eyes. I do so, not sure what I expect to see, but sure that whatever is there is some hateful thing which deserves revulsion. I catch myself thinking words that aren't mine, and then immediately don't seem concerned. I am smarter than this. This isn't me. I know that. But the thought hurts, and my own body waves it away with explosions of pain that I feel like solar flares. Forcing myself to look around, I see that the life taps have mostly extinguished all around me. I have outlasted them all, and this conscious thought brings some relief. When part of me senses that I should be mourning, it's been so hard to keep track of time, but it must have been only hours ago that we arrived here to find our end.
Beginning.
The scientists, fresh from their labs and their research, looking completely out of place for fieldwork, were nestled safely between us. Glorified pack animals. They used to bring them down here, down, into the darkness. The joke was, of course, on them, even more than it was on us. I barely even got a look at the object before everything went to blood and nightmares and insanity. Half dug out, at a glance, it would appear to be a perfect metal cube. Even in the instant I had to look at it, I could tell I would have to fight to understand its lines and corners. It was a cube in name and spirit, and yet all its sides melted into one another, causing impossible angles. Light caught it in all the wrong ways. It was as if looking too closely would show you another time or place altogether, and madness would follow in hand. That was when the ground trembled. Dust kicked up from all sides at once. Lights flickered. Something moved from a shadow, which should have been far too small to contain it. This something huge and violent and
Ancient.
swept through us like a red tide, bringing down wall supports and pieces of decent men alike. couple of people managed to unholster weapons and began firing randomly. Most were too shocked and simply stood there, staring in mute horror. Next to me, inches away, a scientist's head was taken out by a round from a friendly. I'm pretty sure that was when I started screaming. Someone else might have been laughing. I don't even know anymore. It takes maybe a few seconds to react when their check starts happening in battle. Maybe another 10 to unholster and ready a weapon. It takes 6.8 seconds to empty a full magazine from a standard light rifle. In that time, many of us died, and the rest found ourselves buried and alone. There was nothing left to be hoped for. There was nothing to be gained from remembering more. I just want to be left alone, and for this to end. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting how to be the man you wanted me to be. Maybe I'm just my father's son. I just don't want this anymore. Then I see it. One last orange light in the dark. Its owner stirring. Are you still alive, Cruz? Are you going to help?
Hurt.
Me? I had a chip on my shoulder by the time I reached the final cycle of suborbital training, ironically held in deep space. It's mostly about tactics when fighting in different environments. I was already sick of justifying my education, my ability, by the time I met Willem. Willem was a career instructor. Somehow, despite his best efforts, I endured 2 years without knocking him on his ass. I had considered every day a Pyrrhic victory. It burned, taking grief from someone like that, but I took pride in keeping myself bottled up, never being what I always hated most about my father. People said Willem was pushed through his own training because he was the son of a diplomat. I didn't doubt it. He was arrogant, incompetent, and despite having shoulders like a Teraton, he was the shortest guy in almost any room. He was also a coward, more inclined to yell at us from the relative comfort of the sideline, rather than actually do anything. I'd met the type plenty growing up. All theory, no practice. Willem had never seen anything more dangerous than planning session, but gave commands with the authority that would get guys killed just as easily as you would order dinner. Money breeds weakness, but opens doors. Power gets you hated and promoted. All hail the GCPS. So for 2 long years, I endured it. 59 other guys and I now sat in a room, knowing it was the last time we would have to listen to Willem prattle on. We were getting assignments in 3 days, and this lesson was mostly posturing. Exams were over, results were in. This was us going through the motions. It didn't matter to the preening Shek at the lectern, though, who happily tried to take the slaz out of us one last time.
Wow, a fleetfoot who knows fancy words like biome. Are you just full of surprises? As always, Alrevan.
This was his way. No matter how many times I explained that being self-educated didn't make me an idiot, he would still take his jabs and push himself, with his own tiny man complex a little further up onto his pedestal.
Well, it's lucky for everyone here that the corporation needs grunts, gentlemen. Which means this self-taught piece of garbage won't be joining you in any officer training.
What? I thought to myself, that couldn't be. No one said it aloud, but everyone in the room knew I had aced every exam. I was livid, more than livid, and Willem knew it. He saw the look in my face, the confusion rounding the corner and becoming rage. He smirked. That jumped-up little Shek actually smirked.
What can I say, Martine? Not everyone's cut out for officer school.
I was out of my seat, and hurtled a second, before I even knew what was going on. I had spent my entire life being bullied, being made to feel small and less than others, just because who I was, where I was born, or the color of my skin. Even just the fact that I couldn't be bothered to be hard-drinking, disrespectful, and hate-filled slazhead. I'd always taken such pride in being composed. Maybe if I don't show any emotion, it'll balance out the bad ones, which I'd been taught to deplore. I would think. It wasn't winning me any battles, though. Keeping it all inside was killing me. Had been killing me all those years. I'd never even realized it. In that moment I experienced an anger that I couldn't even comprehend. The ants told me it was all right. It was okay that I did what I had to do. The fever dream of recall lessens its grip for a moment, and I am confused. I don't recall thinking those thoughts at the time. I'm not even sure they were my thoughts at all. I do remember how good it felt to show them that I could be exactly what they expected me to be. Mounted on Willem, I squeezed until I was sure he couldn't breathe, and then squeezed some more, fingers locked tight around his throat, feeling his windpipe slowly collapse under the pressure with a wet, grinding crunch. I crushed the life out of him, exacting my revenge for every moment of torment I had suffered for 2 painful years. And when he lay there dead, I knew I had won. Except that isn't how it happened either. I didn't kill him. I shake my head, trying to clear the fuzziness at the edge of my thoughts. Why am I remembering this wrong? Sometimes my brain hurts when I sleep, when I remember. Something carves orderly little holes in my mind. It finds all the things that made me who I am, and it makes the bad ones worse. Makes me angry, and they like that. Reality suddenly clamps me in a cold grip, and I come fully awake, to my fingers around Cruz's neck. I know I should care. He is limp and broken, and he got what he deserved.
He shouldn't have tried to touch me.
Part of me, a small part, very far away from there, thinks that he was just trying to help me. But the answer back. There are more of them than ever now. They run all over my brain, leaving little, burning paths in my thoughts. They tell me I needed to break his neck.
I did.
They tell me what I did was good.
It was.
Didn't it feel good?
It did.
Cruz was a soldier of a sort. He was a soldier, and he was coming to hurt me. I did what I needed to do to survive.
I am a survivor.
That is what I was born to be.
That is what I was reborn to be.
What a strange idea. In between ants, I wonder where the thought came from. Reborn? What does that even mean? And where did that thought even come from? And why does it make me so happy?
Angry.
Why do I feel so free?
Angry.
I hurt too. My body hurts. I try to push myself off the ground. The fingernails at the end of bent, twisted fingers dig into the ground. It hurts too much.
Won't hurt soon.
And all I can do is scream. Then I notice my scream sounds wrong. The ants don't mind. Maybe I'll just go back to sleep for now. When I wake up, maybe I won't be so angry. My recollection is half missing. A fade to consciousness somewhere trapped within a fade to black. I don't remember whether it's happening now, or whether this is my past. I'm getting angry with myself for my uncertainty. Or I was angry then, and I'm recalling that feeling. Can't really be sure which it is. The emotions are all jumbled in my head, rolling and sliding across each other like street-like flections in a puddle. All I know, or knew, is that somewhere outside of time, the march through my brain continues. Every time they find a bit of hurt, every memory of pumping blood or quickened pulse, they are happy. When their path takes them across a memory that suits them, that tastes like fury, they sing their pheromone song, and others come to join them. They are multiplying slowly and steadily throughout my whole being, marching with the same relentless pace that I saw in my mind's eye when my mom told me her story. A million little legs tap at every horrific memory in my head, like as many hands patting me on the back and telling me anger is good, the hatred is good. This time, they look on as I stumble in and out of awareness. Then, like now, not certain of what exactly was going on. I wake up and hear digging, and it makes me want to kill something. Who is making all that noise? Don't they know the ants aren't done yet? My body still hurts. I bet it hurts because they woke me up. I bet I could stop them. It would be nice to stop them. It would be
Fun.
If I wasn't so dizzy, I would do it. I would love to do it. It's all I want. But for now, the ants say sleep. So I do. I try to keep telling my story. My memories aren't right, but I don't mind anymore. One moment I'm thinking of being assigned to a terrible dive called Nexus Psi, and a pathetic beginning to my career. The next I'm killing my way across epochs. The ultimate survivor is what I am. I'm angry and I hate, but it makes me strong, and it makes me keep going. I remember screaming and bodies scattered in chaos of blood. I remember seeing myself from another set of eyes, screaming just like the rest of them. I see myself. I see Martin Ibn al-Revin, and I hate myself too. I want to kill myself, kill Martin, because that is what must happen. I cannot be free till every last shred of him
Me?
is dead and gone, obliterated in the beautiful storm of my boiling rage. I kill my way from one man to the next, deeming some of them less than others. I judge, I discriminate, and it feels
Good.
I choose the ones who are scared, and they die terribly. I choose myself because I hate myself. I will be a good one. I will make this one like me. So much anger. Martin has the audacity to be angry when he
I
should be scared. Monster and victim. I get to be both at once. The perfection of the instant makes the ants laugh as they let out a cheer that devours my brain and leaves fissures in my soul. He, I, hurts, me, him, but does not kill. This one, he, I, will make a strong sergeant. I always knew I wasn't just meant to be a grunt. In the wrong memory, I am happy.
I am angry.
And I survive. My work done. I bellow and am fire itself. Hatred is survival. Survival is joy. He, it,
I
push through the small opening, not caring that it brings down a mountain of earth behind me. Getting outside is all that matters.
soldiers. Different soldiers now. Breaking through the rubble. Not coming to help. I know. Coming to hurt me. I'll show them. I'll hurt them first. I hate them so much. I want them dead. No, not just dead. I want them to suffer. I see the first one pushing through. Stupid trained apes. Stupid, soft apes. More coming now. They file in like ants crawling all over my mind. Damn ants, walking, scratching.
When they come closer, I see they all have the same face. For a moment they are all wearing my father's face. I'll tear it off. All I want is to tear it off, all of them. But no, not my father. Different soldiers. The armor.
I want to rip into them with my fingers, my teeth, my everything. Until I pull all of their pieces out.
Some part of Martine.
Me.
Some part of me remembers soldiers like this. Images seen on Trivid. Those stoic statues back on Corporation Central. Enforcers. Then they have my father's face again. And some have Instructor Willem's face. In fact, the more I look, they have the faces of every demon, every devil, every worst nightmare, and most loathsome memory from the darkest corner of my soul. And I just want them to die. Why do they always come? Why do they have to hurt?
I'll show them. I'll hurt them first. I'll hurt them more. I won't leave anything left of them. I'll take them into me. I'll make them like me. I need to make them like me.
I stir. They pause. I pull myself up on crooked feet. Feet that hurt. So much pain. A fleeting thought of a missing boot. Like a dragonfly wing brushing against my mind and vanishing before it can take hold. The ants keep walking all over my brain. They say their work is almost done. But, for 1 second, they too hesitate. In that 1 second, as the soldiers raise heavy rifles, I can think clearly. I think of my mother. I think that maybe they're not here to hurt me. Maybe they're here to help. I don't have to kill them. If I just ask for help, I can still be alright. In the darkness, I call out to them. A flashlight snaps to my face. A man barks an order. Help. GCPS message net. To Al Revan M. Trooper. From Willem D. Recruitment Captain. Message.
Dear Martine, it is with great respect that I must write to inform you that your father has passed away. A great man, and respected by all who knew him, me more than anyone. It is only thanks to his efforts that you and I were able to ascend the ranks together at the academy. I know he always regretted that you were unable to continue to the heights of service of which you were capable after the death of your mother, and your enforced leave from duty to ensure that he and your brother were adequately cared for. I have watched over them this last year in your absence, and had hoped that he would manage to last until your return. Alas, this was not to be. I wish I could pass this news to you in person. I append the contents of a letter which he left in my care to pass to you. It does not seem fair to make you wait until the end of your tour to read its contents. I will ensure that Pharaoh is looked after until you return. Your friend, Dieter.
Message ends.